Now we've got to measure the distance between the spacer and the pin. Now in imperial measurements it's 0.006 and 0.02. Our measurement's 0.008, 0.2 of a millimetre. So it's within the specification. The second method in the instruction is to measure the distance. If you put the gears in together and the cam gears, is to measure this distance here in the cam gears. A combination, so that should be the minimum 3683. It is, and I think I'm going to struggle to fit much more in there. So my gap's 3.86 millimetres, so 3.8 is fine. Okay, so I know that the thrust washers are the right size. I don't need to change shim size or anything, don't need to machine the size, and according to the instructions this will now all work. Now the pins have got a little stepped edge on it. Now the pin actually, I should have stuck them in first, the pin will actually sit so the stepped edge fits up towards the slot. Perhaps just a scribe or a small mail or something like that, and now what we'll do is push those pins across into the matching holes, and as we do that also they've just got to put the springs in. So now with all your pins in, that little step should face towards that slot now. Just to feed one of those springs in. Okay, there's my 4 springs in. I've already put my cross pin in, so I've cheated there, and that's realistically, that's the diff now. Just got to line up the pin, put it back in together and punch it. The rest, as you can see it's getting dark, is tomorrow's job. Okay, so the next part is to put your ring gear on, and then once you've got your ring gear on is to get each of your bolts and put some Loctite onto the threads. You've already got all the others just in and just nipped up. Make sure you clean the holes and you clean the bolts from any of the oil that's on them. Okay, so the next part what we do is to fit the diff back into the diff housing. Now to do this is when you reinsert the caps and the locking ring, you've got to make sure that the threads in the locking ring line up with the thread in the housing. As you should know, you should have marked them left and right, or however you match them. It's got 2 things, it's got a yellow line on it, it's also got match marks that I put on earlier at the start. Now when you line it up, I don't know if you can see in here, there's actually a step in between the casing, or the housing, and the cap. So to see if it's lined up, have a look at the threads, and that should tell you roughly that you're correct. And if in doubt, just put your bolt in the top, and if your bolt goes in, top and bottom, then you know that step's okay. When I first tried this side was alright, this side I was a little bit worried about due to the step. I was a bit uncertain whether it was lined in correctly. So I'll take that one off. Same thing, I'll just insert it just so I know where the step's going to be out a little bit. And probably as a demonstration, that lines up all the threads, it feels right, and where the bolt won't go in. So I know it's got to come over a little bit more. Okay, that looks right. Okay, the bolt's in. And as I say, the machining between the two doesn't totally match up, but the bolt holes do, so I'm happy now when I go to reinstall it, that's where it should be sitting. So put your caps over, it's going to be the easiest way. There you go, second time round, for some reason, like everything, just wants to fall in. Now what we'll do is we'll recheck the backlash, which is the same as what we did at the start. We make sure the backlash is the same. And then we'll clean up the gasket off the axle housing, and then we'll go for the install after that. Okay, we've got the driver's side axle and the whole assembly back together. Now we're just doing the passenger side. So the axle shaft's already in. Now we just slide that over. And then what we've got to do is feed the bottom kingpin bearing in. Once that's in, the top cap on. Now I've cleaned all the bearings, repacked the bearings in the caps. Have anything to prevent water getting into your inside of your hub. Some more silicone. Okay, now we've got the hub assembly back on. Now what we're going to do is put the freewheeling drive gear and the freewheeling hub back on. So just to make it easier on yourself, just make sure your axle shaft's pulled out so you can get to the groove for your C-clip. Goes on. Just make sure that's seated in, which it has. And it's just a matter of sticking the freewheel hub back on. Now that's all back together, and now just go to the rear and put your wiper blade back together, which is fairly self-explanatory. Now what we should see, you can use a spring tool to measure the preload, but we haven't changed anything. It's sitting alright, it's not flopping, it's not loose. I'll clean up the silicone from the back, and that section's now done. Okay, as you can probably tell from the lighting now, it's night time. It takes a few hours to pull it apart and put everything back together again. But now what we're going to do is test it. So the instructions say is that you push one wheel back and rotate the other wheel forward, and as you do so you should hear a clicking sound. Then you do the reverse, you rotate the other one back and rotate the other one forward, and again you should hear a clicking sound, and it should also do that in reverse. So it's a bit tricky by yourself. I'm just still filling up the dip with oil, so that's nearly finished, but it'll disappear, not going to be in the picture anyway, and I'll hold the wheel, and this will be the driver's side, and you should be able to hear the clicking from the passenger side when I do it. So I'm holding the passenger wheel backwards now, and just holding that still, and then rotate the driver's side. Okay, so that works that side. Now I'll rotate the driver's wheel backwards, and I'll hold that, and then I'll rotate the passenger side forwards, and we should be able to hear a click still. Now I'll hold the passenger's front wheel forwards, while holding that still, rotate the driver's side backwards. And that works. And now hold the driver's side in the forward position and rotate the passenger side backwards. Okay, it's a little bit hard by yourself. Well, that's it. That's the LOKKA Lock Right installed onto the GQ. Took over the weekend, started Saturday morning, finished Sunday night. Obviously it's dark now. Not a hard job. Probably most of the hours actually just mucking around cleaning things up. The installing of the locker centre was quite easy. So yeah, let's now just try it out in the tracks and see how we go. All the best. See you.